how hot has it been the last couple of days. I did warn you, so I've come over today because plot inspection is tomorrow, the one with the council. So we've had the committee one and now we're having the council one, so I need to make sure everything's up. And I mean, you'd be shocked at the amount of weeds that have come up in the last couple of weeks since I've been prioritising my job. Also, on a positive note, if you've noticed that the sound is a lot better on my mic, I had it on all the wrong settings, so thank you for the people that told me, and also thank you to Steve Digwell at Digwell Green Fingers, who pointed me in the right direction, that said, do you think you might be on the wrong setting? And when I checked, I actually don't know how I did it, but I set it on the wrong thing the last couple of weeks. Right, also, one thing that I noticed when I came over the plot this morning, come and see, this is sad, but you'll share my excitement. Come and see. So I was coming over to have a look at this allium that's come up, and look at the bee, just enjoying life. And then I looked up, and on my Victoria plum tree, one Victoria plum. Now I know that sounds super sad, but you should see the excitement, because I have had this tree about 3 or 4 years now, and it's grown and grown, and I pruned it, and I transplanted it from my old plot up to here, and I knew that I would knock it back again. To come over and to see that one plum managed to flower and be pollinated is enough for me to know that there's signs for things ahead. Like the apple tree was more forgiving, and I've got, you know, quite a few apples on the tree, but to see that one plum, you know, it's like in that perfect lettuce, isn't it, or the perfect cabbage. Right, I need to get on, I need to get all this weeding done, so it's going to be boring. I'm not going to bore you with all of it because nobody wants to see loads of weeding, but I'm also going to give you a little plot tour then as well and show you all the way through everything, and then my future plans, because there's so many plans I've got and some of them are exciting. So right, let's get on. Harvested the cabbage, and I'm not quite sure what's happened to it. I mean, look at that. It's like some kind of form, like some kind of weird, it looks like it's bust, I'm not sure. Like, I did find some little black beetles inside there as well, so I don't know whether or not that's interfered with the growth. But they've got some like side shoots of cabbages coming off and all these little mini ones on the top. So I'm not sure. If anyone knows, then let me know. Like, I've never seen that before, and I showed it to a few of the older guys up here as well, and they was like, they've never seen that happen to a cabbage. So let me just give you an update of the tomatoes in the greenhouse. Wow. So these ones are called Black Beauty, and down here there's some absolutely monsters of some lovely tomatoes. What a beautiful colour. And my favourite, the Frenchy Toms. These are perfect for sauces and passata and things like that. So I'll be showing you in a future video of how I can tomatoes and store them. So in like one of the next videos, when I harvest all my tomatoes, I'll show you how I can them and I store them, and they last. And I've still got jars now from last year that I use for bolognese and things like that. Look at these as well. My Brad's Atomic grapes. Now, I've seen other people have scraggly plants and they don't look, you know, healthy. But I must admit, mine are looking pretty healthy. But these ones at the top, they're coming on lovely. And there's quite a few around the plants. But I will say the main crop of this year has been the Tigerella, which I will definitely be growing again next year. There's just been an abundance of tomatoes, and they've even ripened earlier than everyone else's. So I'm just having a trickle of harvest from the Tigerella. So have a look. And now I had some from down the bottom here and all the way up. This Tigerella tomatoes, and I mean quite a lot, and there's still flowers here. And I'll stop it here now. I normally stop it a bit lower, but because I'm having such a good harvest from them, this one I'm letting go a little bit higher. Take a look at these ones, the Ananas Noir. How big is that? It's the size of my palm. It's going to be a hefty tomato, so I think I'm going to have to give this one an extra bit of support, maybe put something under here to keep them from snapping this vine, and there's quite a few down here as well. I'm a little worried about the kales and the sprouts and the cabbages in this one, because I came over yesterday and there was a cabbage white in both of these nets, so somehow I've not put them on tight enough, and you already know they've laid a million eggs, so they're not always foolproof. They avoid so many, but I'm just gonna have to keep an eye on them, so hopefully I caught them just in time. Take a look at these teddy bear sunflowers. Most of them are like this, but a few I've already started to open up a bit more, but they look like pom-poms. So another nice surprise is all these bell peppers on this plant. There is 2, 4, 6. There's about 8 to 10 bell peppers on this plant. Beautiful. Before long, this is going to be an array of red tomatoes and chillies, and I can already see plenty telling me that I'm going to have a future harvest in the next month. Now, I took up the Kent blue peas. They'd finished flowering and podding, and I've taken them up now, as you can see, and I'm leaving them to dry out so that I can have plenty for next year, because they were beautiful, and these ones are already dried now, so inside next year's seed. So I've given this area a good prune back. There was a lot of the thornless blackcurrant vines coming through, so I've chopped a few of those back. They came from a neighbouring plot, and believe it or not, these blackcurrant leaves, they're also loved by the chickens, so once they finish that cabbage, they'll enjoy this. The sunflowers now. The corn is a jungle now, and I'm absolutely loving these lush, tall sculptures that's coming through the plot, and hopefully, fingers crossed, I'll have some corn this year. Do you ever get those days where you're at your allotment or your garden and you do loads of those tedious jobs that you didn't really want to do, and it just looks like you've done nothing? Like, I've looked around and it looks like I haven't been here at all today, but I assure you I have. So I figured now's a good time, now is all flowering and fruiting, to give this a good feed of tomato feed, giving it that extra boost when it's needed the most. There we go. So I've noticed that the King of the North peppers, they're finally catching up. We got some here, which is strange, because these ones were all planted at the same time, but I think it's because this side gets least amount of sun until the evening. But these ones over here, you know, they're a good 1.5 foot high now. So I'm happy that later on, once these ones, oh, amazing. Let me show you. So as I was talking to you about the King of the North, so now they'll catch up, I looked down and I could see we've already got some peppers on the King of the North plants. So there's 2, 3, there's 4 on that plant alone. None on the rest yet, but I'm so pleased that we've already got 4 here. While closing down the polytunnel, I noticed that there's this beautiful butterfly in here. As much as they're a pest, they're still life. I must admit, this mini polytunnel from First Tunnels has been an absolute godsend this year. It's given me a massive amount of space to grow chillies and peppers and bush tomatoes, and the marigolds seem to like it as well. But the fact that you can lift it up and close it down and even leave it halfway to give some good ventilation, and I mean, like the heat wave we had, I just lifted it up, and I mean, gotta be honest, most of the summer I've had this open and not needed it at all, but on those cold nights at the start it's a godsend. And also, like today, it's not as hot, so I've closed it down just to give it a bit of humidity in there, and hopefully it'll bring on some of those bush tomatoes. So it might not look like it, but I've given the pond a little bit of a clean, and I'm sure they'll all enjoy that I've had a bit of a spruce. And I've noticed that there's some water snails in the pond now, so I'm pleased to see those. That trickle though is infectious. So I've got some cos lettuces here given to me, and these will be a perfect. I mean, this just proves, look at this. It looks lovely and wet on this top. And I mean, I gave this a good drenching. Underneath, bone dry. So I'm gonna have to give this an extra watering. So it's just like a desert underneath. So it's gonna need a soaking, a good soaking, I think. Okay, let's go do that first. So my Bosch pump is amazing for this type of job. You collect the rainwater in your barrels and your tanks off your shed roofs, and then the pump pumps all the water, and the pressure is amazing, and it gives the beds a good soaking. So I haven't got to do that tedious job of carting watering cans around my plot. Could you imagine? So I don't envy any of you who have to do that. So if you haven't got one of these and you want to treat yourself, the best investment ever. So I'll give this a good soaking now. Pop those in, those cos lettuce in, and we should have an extra crop after these then. Right, let's start again. So I've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Perfect. I'll just pop them in. See, still bone dry. I'm gonna have to make sure I give these good waterings. I mean, I just drenched this and it's still bone dry underneath. Madness. So my advice is, if you think you've watered your bed, dig down and look, dry. We'll pop these in, and like I said, it'll give me an extra harvest later on in the season, hopefully. And there we go, all in. So I noticed the other day that Scylla seemed a bit more tired than usual, and she's quite old anyway, so I knew this would probably be her last year. They're tiny small chickens and they don't last forever, and I took her home for a few days through this heat, thinking, you know, I didn't want her to stress out even more with the heat. And sadly I brought her back last night, and I came back this morning and sadly Scylla's passed away, and I'm absolutely gutted because she was my favourite, and her colours were phenomenal, and she was a showstopper, and she will be sadly missed. So, but these things happen, and when you have livestock, and especially when they're on the, you know, on your plot, you can care for them and give them the amount of love that you want, but sometimes just not enough, and these things do happen. But yeah, gutted. Right, let's get a harvest sorted, because those runner beans are calling for me again today. Not a bad little crop. I've noticed that some of the blauhildes have already started to, you know, crop as well. So a nice little mixture just for a quick little tea. But before long, this will be an abundance of beans. So I'm enjoying these little trickles of harvest at the moment. So I've come over today with more of a positive attitude. Yes, it's sad about Scylla, but life goes on, you know, and this will happen on the plot. You know, chickens will just suddenly pass away sometimes, but you know, there's nothing you can do about it. So I've come over today. It's rained pretty much a lot of the night, so I'm hoping the soil has had a good watering. That gives me a job that I haven't got to do today, and I'll do some harvesting. And yeah, I need to have a bit more of a tidy up. So I had a plot inspection, that would have gone fine, but the bottom part of the plot, it needs a good little spruce now, because we've got a special guest coming on next week, and his video will be out as well, I'm guessing the following week. So if you've been watching my channel from the start, you'll know that Malcolm Kingswell, his channel inspired me to start this YouTube experience. And yeah, I went and visited his plot because he's seen my pictures on Instagram of my old plot, invited me over, and I'll put a link to the video in the description so that you can go and take a look at how this experience started with me. And yeah, he kind of said, just try. And I pondered on for about a month, and then here we are, almost a year later, and almost 2,000 subscribers. So I'm I've got like about a month or so left before I get to my anniversary. And I never ever ask anyone to do this, but if you would consider subscribing, it would make absolutely amazing difference to me to hit that 2K for my 1-year anniversary. That's the last beg I'm going to do of the year. And right, let's do some harvesting. So when I entered my plot earlier on, this flurry of birds shot off the plot, and I thought, that's different. Like, I've noticed, you know, there's obviously wildlife here, but there was a mass amount. And then I realized, you know, there's an abundance of sunflowers, and the sweet peas alone have got masses and masses of pods on them, and they're obviously trying to eat the seed, but I need to try and protect some of it because I want it to dry out, and obviously I want the seeds for next year. So I need to do that at some point today. Just put a little bit of a net around it to just keep it so that those birds are not eating everything. Don't mind sharing, but they're not having it all. Look at this sunflower as well. It's sprouted off so many branches now, and the amount of heads I'm having on the sunflowers this year is amazing. So there's 6 on here already, and they're sprouting from everywhere, and the same on this one. There's loads, so I absolutely love sunflowers. So if you ever notice, I love sunflowers, and I love having different variations all dotted through all the plot. So if you've got a particular sunflower that you think would look amazing on in my allotment, then pop in the description before, and then I'll attempt to find the seeds, and then next year I'm hoping to have them all across this fence here. That's the plan, that when I come in there'll be a massive wall of sunflowers all going down the bottom part of the plot. Right, let's get on. So with Malcolm arriving in a couple of days, I need to have a good little spruce now, and he's a realistic person, and you know, nobody's allotment is ever 100% perfect, and I've never ever pretended mine is, but there's some areas where I think, God, I've neglected that. I have neglected that area because life gets in the way, you know, and that's what happens. So if your plot is not as up to scratch, then don't worry, you know, there's always next year for you to focus on that area, and I guarantee you the other areas that you used to focus on, they'll be neglected. You can't do it all. We're only human. We are only human. Got caught on the fence. Now I harvested some of the Cavalier Nero and I steamed it, and it was bitter as hell. It was so bitter. So if you know why that is, do you think it's because it's the summer and, you know, it gets sweeter in the winter? It's like, should I just leave the Cavalier Nero alone and let the winter frost, you know, sweeten up those leaves? Like, that's my theory anyway. But I was so disappointed. I took some beautiful lush leaves and I steamed them, and it was just pure bitterness. So what is your thoughts on my Cavalier Nero as well? Like, I've never grown on the plot. I've always had it off other people, and because I never had no room on my other plot to indulge in that space for a kale. And that was always lovely and sweet and like cabbage-like, but this, it was disgusting. So I finally got around to sorting out the tool shed today. I didn't film it because it would just been a tedious job, but it's had a good little makeover now. Everything's been organised and put back where it should be, because it's been a bomb site in here for weeks because I just haven't had the time, but it's done. Everything's back in its place, ready for autumn. Right, I'm going to finish off my jobs, and I do hope that you'll come back and visit, subscribe and visit, and see, you know, why Malcolm is coming to my plot. There is a reason for it. There's a reason why Malcolm's coming, so it's a perfect fit in time, to be honest. So stay tuned and go watch his channel to see why he's coming here, and also come back to mine and see how everything's going on. So take care, guys, and I'll see you all again soon.